The Sahara Desert, an ocean of silence, where the wind carries nothing but sand across endless horizons. At first glance, it appears eternal, lifeless, and unchanging. A vast expanse of dunes, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Red Sea, swallowing 1/3 of Africa under a sea of golden grains. To the untrained eye, this is a wasteland, a barren wilderness where nothing of value could ever exist. And yet, beneath this stillness, whispers echo. Whispers of something far older than we dare to imagine. For centuries, travelers, explorers, and mystics have spoken of ruins buried beneath these dunes, remnants of an age when the Sahara was not a desert at all, but a fertile paradise, a cradle of life. Long before pyramids rose from the Nile, before Babylon and Greece shaped human thought, there are clues that a forgotten civilization flourished here, in the very heart of the Sahara. But why does mainstream history tell us nothing of it? Why do the maps, the myths, and the fragments of evidence point toward a hidden story that seems carefully overlooked? This is where our journey begins. The mirage of emptiness imagined standing at the edge of the Sahara as the sun dips below the horizon. The air cools, the stars begin to emerge, and suddenly the desert transforms into a canvas of eternity. No city lights pollute the view. No sound interrupts the silence. For most of us, this is the end of the world, the last place one would expect to find signs of advanced culture. And yet, if we peel back the surface, not just the literal sand, but the layers of historical assumptions, something remarkable emerges. Scientists now know that just 10,000 years ago, this desert was unrecognizable. Rivers meandered through its valleys. Lakes larger than some modern countries dotted its interior, and grasslands stretched where dunes now dominate. But even this revelation raises deeper questions. If the Sahara was once green, who lived there? What did they build? And what traces remain beneath the shifting sands? The first whispers, the earliest whispers of a hidden desert civilization, do not come from modern science, but from the old chroniclers and storytellers. Herodotus, often called the father of history, wrote of strange peoples beyond Egypt who dwelled in cities now lost. Berber oral traditions speak of stone-built settlements swallowed by storms. And in certain esoteric texts, there are cryptic references to a city of circles lying in the heart of Africa, now erased from human memory. For centuries, such accounts were dismissed as folklore, until satellite images began to reveal that beneath the dunes, traces of rivers, roads, and possible structures still exist. It is as if the desert has been hiding a palimpsest of human history, waiting for the right eyes to rediscover it. A forbidden landscape, there's a reason why the Sahara has remained such a mystery. It is not merely its vastness, but its hostility. Temperatures soar to 50 degrees Celsius by day, plummet at night, and storms can bury landmarks under tons of sand within hours. For archaeologists, this is more than an inconvenience. It is an impenetrable wall. Expeditions vanish, equipment fails, and even when discoveries are made, they often remain unreported, hidden in obscure academic papers, or quietly suppressed. Some suggest this suppression is deliberate. After all, if we uncovered proof of a sophisticated civilization beneath the Sahara, one older than Egypt, it would rewrite the very timeline of human history. It would challenge everything we think we know about the origins of civilization, about where knowledge first flourished, and about how ancient cultures interacted across continents. The desert as a tomb, there is a haunting quality to the Sahara, as though the desert itself is a tomb. Its sands cover not only the bones of animals and lost caravans, but perhaps the remains of entire empires. Think of the pyramids of Giza, visible to all because they stand above ground. Now imagine if those same structures were buried under 100 meters of shifting sand. To the outside world, they would not exist, and yet they would. This is the paradox of the Sahara. What it hides may be greater than what it reveals. The question of Atlantis inevitably, the whispers of a hidden Saharan civilization intertwine with one of history's greatest enigmas, Atlantis. Plato's account of a lost empire, circular in design, wealthy in resources, and destroyed in a cataclysm, has fueled speculation for millennia. Some researchers argue that the Sahara's rick-hat structure, a vast, concentric formation visible from space, matches Plato's description eerily well. Could it be that the desert itself is Atlantis, or at least part of its forgotten domain? Mainstream historians scoff, insisting the rick-hat is nothing more than geology at work. But the coincidence is too striking for many to ignore. And so the whispers grow louder. Is the Sahara the key to solving the greatest mystery of all? The tone of suppression whenever alternative thinkers raise these questions, they face dismissal, ridicule, or outright silence. We are told that the Sahara holds no secrets, that it has always been a desert, that nothing advanced could have existed there, and that anomalies are simply misinterpretations. Yet time and again, evidence surfaces that contradicts this narrative. Stone circles aligned to the stars, ancient maps showing rivers and settlements, and local traditions that speak of vanished cities. One must ask, why the eagerness to suppress? Could it be that the truth of the Sahara threatens established timelines, religious narratives, or geopolitical control of history itself? An invitation to the journey. As the dunes shift with the wind, so too does history shift with perspective. In this series, we are not merely tourists in the desert. We are seekers, excavating the hidden layers of our past. Together, we will follow the clues, the old maps, the buried rivers, the stone monuments, the legends of tribes, and the strange anomalies spotted from space. Each step will bring us closer to a chilling and exhilarating possibility, that beneath the Sahara lies the memory of a forgotten civilization, one that may have seeded knowledge across the world, only to vanish under sands of time. So let us step into the silence of the Sahara. Listen closely, and you may hear it too, the whispers in the sand. The Sahara, as we know it, an endless wasteland of sand dunes, barren rock, and scorching heat, is only one face of its long history. To understand what may lie beneath its surface, we must first peel back the clock of time. For the Sahara was not always a desert. In fact, in the grand story of Earth's shifting climates, this desolation is surprisingly new. Imagine this. 10,000 years ago, the Sahara was a world of green. Rivers cut through fertile valleys, feeding lakes so large they dwarfed modern inland seas. Grassland stretched across thousands of miles, home to gazelle, giraffe, and hippos. Crocodiles basked in the waters. Fish swam in abundance. And where animals thrived, so too did people. This forgotten age is known as the African humid period. It is here, in this green Sahara, that the first whispers of a hidden civilization take root. The green Sahara, we often think of deserts as timeless, as though they have always existed in their present form. But deserts are fickle things. They expand and contract with the pulse of Earth's orbit, tilting the balance of rainfall and drought. The Sahara, in particular, has flipped between fertile savanna and arid desert multiple times in the last few 100,000 years. During the most recent humid period, beginning around 12,000 years ago, seasonal monsoons shifted northward, watering the land that is now bone dry. Evidence of this transformation can still be seen today. Satellite images reveal the faint outlines of ancient riverbeds, vast as the Mississippi, crisscrossing beneath the dunes. Archaeologists have discovered desiccated fish skeletons far from any modern river, proof of lakes that once shimmered under the sun. At the heart of this landscape lay Lake Megachad, a body of water that at its peak covered over 140,000 square miles, larger than all the Great Lakes of North America combined. Its shores would have supported abundant life and perhaps flourishing communities. The people of the Green Sahara, where there is water, there is humanity. The Green Sahara was no untouched Eden. It was a home, and recent discoveries prove it. Rock art carved into desert cliffs tells us stories of its former glory. In places like Tassili Inajar in Algeria, Vast galleries of prehistoric paintings depict cattle herds, dancing figures, hunters with bows, and even boats gliding across ancient rivers. The level of artistry is astonishing. Not crude stick figures, but detailed scenes of daily life, rituals, and myth. These images tell us that far from being a wilderness, the Sahara was once a cultural heartland. Generations thrived here, raising animals, farming, and perhaps even building societies more advanced than we realize. And then something happened. The great drying around 6,000 years ago, the rains began to falter. The Earth's orbit shifted once again, tilting monsoons southward. What followed was one of the most dramatic climate changes in human history. Lakes shrank, rivers dried, grasslands turned to dust. The green Sahara withered. Within a few centuries, fertile plains became wasteland. For its inhabitants, this was nothing less than apocalyptic. Populations that had thrived along rivers and lakes were forced to abandon their homes. Some migrated to the Nile Valley, perhaps giving rise to the sudden flowering of dynastic Egypt. Others may have vanished, swallowed by the desert itself. It is in this collapse, this transition from paradise to desolation, that legends of lost cities, forgotten peoples, and buried civilizations may have been born. Evidence in plain sight, mainstream archaeology acknowledges the Green Sahara, but rarely follows its implications to their full conclusion. If people thrive there for thousands of years, where are their settlements? Where are the ruins of their towns, their temples, their monuments? Some point to Nabta Playa, a site near the Egyptian-Sudanese border, where a circle of megaliths has been found aligned with the stars, dating back nearly 7,000 years. This is no simple tribal marker. It is a calendar, a sacred space, evidence of complex thought and advanced planning. And if Nabta Playa survived, how many more such structures might still lie buried under dunes? The sheer size of the Sahara makes excavation nearly impossible. Entire cities could remain hidden, undisturbed for millennia. When one considers that we are still discovering lost Mayan cities beneath Central American jungles using modern scanning technology, how many secrets might a desert, which actively buries its past, still hold? A forgotten cradle of civilization? What if the Sahara was more than a fertile plain? What if it was one of humanity's original cradles of civilization, now erased by shifting sands? The timeline is tantalizing. Around 10,000 years ago, as the Green Sahara blossomed, agriculture was also taking root in Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Could it be that the Sahara, too, fostered a parallel civilization, one that later vanished without a trace, its knowledge scattered to neighboring regions? Some researchers argue that this could explain sudden jumps in culture along the Nile. The rise of Egypt, they suggest, was not spontaneous, but the inheritance of wisdom from Saharan ancestors fleeing a drying land. If so, the Sahara was not a peripheral zone, but the missing piece of our human story. Myths as memory across Africa, oral traditions echo fragments of this forgotten age. Berber tales speak of stone cities devoured by sandstorms. Egyptian myths describe primeval lands of plenty, lost in floods and fire. Even Plato's Atlantis, described as lush, circular, and destroyed in catastrophe, may preserve a distorted memory of this Green Sahara. To dismiss these myths as fantasy is easy. But what if they are garbled recollections of real events, passed down across generations, encoded in stories because the truth was too immense to forget? The Sahara, as a time capsule, the irony of the desert, is that while it destroys life, it also preserves it. Sand buries, but it also seals. Beneath dunes, organic remains, pottery, tools, and even structures could lie intact, waiting to be uncovered. Some researchers believe entire river valleys could be hiding settlements as significant as Mesopotamian city-states. And so the Sahara becomes a time capsule, a place where history waits in silence, a vast archive of secrets locked beneath a golden shroud. The stage is set by now. The mystery deepens. We know the Sahara was once green. We know people lived there. We know their art, their cattle, and their boats. We know they thrived for millennia before catastrophe struck. What we do not yet know is this. How advanced were they? Did they build cities? Did they leave monuments? And most unsettling of all, what remains of them under the dunes? The Sahara before the sands was not a barren land. It was a paradise, a stage upon which a forgotten civilization may have risen, only to be erased by the shifting hand of nature. And it is here, in the ruins of this green world, that the whispers of a hidden empire begin to grow louder. Long before satellites traced riverbeds beneath the dunes, and long before scientists pieced together the Sahara's hidden past, there were stories. Stories whispered by travelers who dared to cross the vast expanse. Stories told by desert tribes as they gathered around fires beneath a canopy of stars. And stories written in the chronicles of ancient historians who, though mocked by skeptics, may have preserved echoes of a truth too strange to accept. If the Sahara once bloomed with life, then surely its memory must linger not only in stone and soil, but in the human imagination. Myths are, after all, humanity's oldest maps. They are not always literal, but they carry fragments of history, distorted by time, yet stubbornly enduring. Among the most famous voices to speak of hidden worlds beyond Egypt was Herodotus, the Greek historian who traveled widely in the 5th century BCE. To him, the desert was no empty space, but a realm of strange peoples and ancient marvels. He wrote of tribes dwelling near oases, of vast salt mines, and of long-lost sanctuaries where oracles whispered to those who sought guidance. He hinted at civilizations that had vanished, leaving behind only fragments for the winds to scatter. Though many later dismissed his accounts as fanciful, time and again archaeology has proven that Herodotus knew more than he was given credit for. Could his descriptions of forgotten desert tribes be a veiled memory of something much older, survivors of a world erased by shifting sands? The Berber people, whose roots trace deep into North Africa, hold legends even more tantalizing. Passed down in oral tradition, their stories speak of grand stone cities swallowed by sudden storms. Tales of ancestors who once thrived in lands of rivers and gardens, before the desert rose to consume them. These are not stories of distant lands, but of their own soil, their own bloodlines. And while myth can stretch and warp with retelling, it rarely emerges from nothing. Memory lingers, even when landscapes change. Further east, in the myths of ancient Egypt, there are clues just as compelling. Egyptian texts describe a primeval land known as Zep Tepi the first time, when gods walked among men and civilization began in a golden land that later was destroyed. Some scholars interpret this symbolically, but others ask if it could be a cultural memory of an actual fertile age, perhaps the Green Sahara. When Egypt rose suddenly as one of the most advanced civilizations in the ancient world, it did so with knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and agriculture seemingly too advanced to have sprung up in isolation. What if part of that inheritance came from a lost culture to the West, remembered only in myth as a vanished paradise? Even Greek philosophy seems to nod toward such a possibility. Plato, writing in the 4th century BCE, recounted the tale of Atlantis, a mighty civilization that flourished in a lush land, built in concentric circles, and destroyed in a cataclysm that left only stories behind. Most assume Atlantis to be pure allegory, a moral tale. Yet the physical descriptions Plato gave, the rings of land and water, the mountains to the north, the great plain nearby, have been compared by some researchers to features of the Sahara, particularly the enigmatic rick-hat structure in Mauritania. Could it be that Plato's story, filtered through centuries of oral transmission, preserved distorted echoes of a civilization that once thrived in the Sahara before the sands consumed it? Other accounts from antiquity reinforce this strange persistence. Roman geographers wrote of cities of the Garamantes, a people who inhabited the central Sahara and engineered vast underground irrigation systems. They were dismissed as legend until archaeologists uncovered the remnants of these systems in modern Libya. Proof that the desert had indeed supported organized societies long after outsiders thought impossible. If the Garamantes could achieve this in a semi-arid Sahara 2,000 years ago, how much more might their predecessors have accomplished in the fully green Sahara 6,000 years earlier? Beyond written texts, the mythology of the desert tribes carries imagery too specific to ignore. The Tuareg, often called the blue people of the Sahara, carry songs and symbols that speak of a homeland swallowed by sand. Their cosmology is filled with references to stars guiding their ancestors out of a lost paradise. Some of their traditions speak of circular cities, echoing the same mysterious design Plato described for Atlantis. Did these tales arise independently, or are they the faint survival of shared memories? Fragments of a story too old to fully remember, yet too important to let vanish? Even outside Africa, there are resonances. In Sumerian myth, there are stories of a great western land beyond the deserts, a place where the gods once dwelled. In medieval Arabic writings, travelers speak of ruined cities visible for a moment when the dunes shifted, only to vanish again the next day. Tales of phantom cities in the sands persist even in modern folklore, as if the desert itself teases us with fleeting glimpses of what it conceals. Of course, the skeptic would say myth is myth, nothing more than fantasy, coincidence, or allegory. And yet, history has shown us that myth often preserves kernels of truth. Troy was once considered a legend until Schliemann dug it out of the earth. The Amazon rainforest was thought incapable of hosting complex societies until aerial surveys revealed vast ancient earthworks hidden under its canopy. Again and again, myth has proven to be memory wearing the mask of imagination. Why should the Sahara be any different? When we gather all these stories, from Herodotus to the Berbers, from Egyptian creation myths to Platonic philosophy, from Tuareg star lore to Roman accounts of desert cities, a pattern emerges. Different voices, different ages, but all pointing to the same suggestion, that beneath the sands lies a forgotten chapter of humanity, erased from textbooks, but preserved in whispers. What makes these myths so haunting is not their certainty, but their persistence. For thousands of years, across cultures and continents, the Sahara is remembered not as a lifeless desert, but as a place of abundance, of cities, of sudden catastrophe. Like faint echoes bouncing off canyon walls, the legends refuse to die out. They remind us that history is not a fixed record, but a palimpsest, with faint traces of erased stories waiting to be revealed. And so, as we listen to these echoes in myth and legend, the Sahara shifts in our imagination. No longer an empty desert, it becomes a stage haunted by memory, a place where the line between story and history blurs, where truth may hide in allegory, and where the oldest voices whisper of a civilization lost to time. If myths are humanity's first maps, then perhaps they are guiding us now, pointing us toward the sands, urging us to look deeper, to uncover what remains beneath. And with every story told, with every legend recalled, the silence of the Sahara begins to sound less like emptiness and more like memory. From the air, the Sahara seems endless and uniform, a vast sea of sand stretching to the horizon. But from orbit, a peculiar anomaly emerges, one that has captivated scientists, explorers, and conspiracy theorists alike, a perfect, concentric formation in the heart of Mauritania. It appears almost impossibly symmetrical, a series of rings, like ripples frozen in stone, spanning nearly 50 kilometers across. This is the Rikat structure, more commonly known as the Eye of the Sahara, and it is unlike anything else on the planet. When first observed from space, astronauts were struck by its sheer scale and strange geometry. It does not conform to natural expectations. The desert is chaotic, shaped by wind, water, and heat, yet here is a formation so precise it almost feels deliberate, as if a giant hand had drawn circles in the sand before time began. For decades, Geologists explained it as a geological dome, a result of erosion exposing layers of rock in concentric rings. Natural processes, they insisted, nothing more. Yet the eye resists simple explanation. From above, it is mesmerizing. Its rings rise and fall like a stone labyrinth, patterns visible only from the sky. Ancient rivers once flowed near it, perhaps feeding lakes that mirrored the sun, making the structure even more prominent to those who lived in the green Sahara millennia ago. Some researchers have argued that its size and layout correspond strikingly with Plato's description of Atlantis. Concentric rings of land and water, a central plateau, surrounded by fertile plains and mountains beyond. Could the eye be the forgotten mark of a lost civilization, buried beneath layers of sand and time? Explorers who have dared to walk its rings report an eerie sensation, as if the land itself remembers. The rocky terrain is unlike the surrounding desert, smoother in places, oddly arranged in angular patterns, as though shaped by intelligent hands. Fragments of quartz and basalt glint under the sun, hinting at structures that may have once been buildings or ceremonial spaces. No inscriptions or artifacts have yet been confirmed on the scale one would expect from a city, but satellite scans reveal subtle anomalies. Unnatural alignments, straight lines cutting across the terrain, and clusters of rock formations that defy purely geological explanation. Local legends add another layer of intrigue. The nomadic tribes of Mauritania speak of ancient spirits inhabiting the eye, guarding secrets buried beneath the stone rings. Some tell of ruins swallowed by sand, visible only at dawn when the sun casts long shadows over the concentric formations. Others speak of subterranean chambers, accessible only to those who know the desert's hidden pathways. Whether myth or memory, these stories persist, a strange echo of something that may have existed long before the desert claimed its dominion. The eye's alignment with celestial bodies has also drawn attention. Some researchers suggest that the structure could have functioned as an ancient observatory, its rings marking solstices or the paths of stars and planets. Similar to Stonehenge, Nabta Playa, and other ancient monuments, it could represent knowledge of astronomy passed down through generations, lost to mainstream history. The very scale of the eye suggests it would have required a sophisticated society to plan and shape it, a civilization capable of surveying the land, understanding geometry, and executing a vision over miles of desert. Skeptics remain vocal, of course. They point out that geological processes can create symmetrical patterns, that erosion and differential rock hardness can mimic design. And yet, the eye is unique in its combination of scale, precision, and context. It sits not in isolation, but in the heart of the Sahara, once a lush, habitable land capable of supporting thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people. For those seeking evidence of a lost civilization, the eye is a tantalizing puzzle, a mystery that straddles the boundary between natural wonder and human achievement. Aerial photography and satellite imagery have made the eye a subject of modern fascination. Each news scan reveals subtle features previously unnoticed, depressions, terraces, and concentric ridges that may indicate walls or foundations. Ground surveys are difficult. Shifting sands hide and distort features, making it almost impossible to get a complete picture without modern technology. Yet every layer uncovered, every anomaly examined, strengthens the suspicion that the eye is more than just a geological curiosity. It may be a message from the past, waiting for the right eyes to decode. When considered in the context of the Sahara's broader history, the eye takes on an even more profound significance. We know that the desert once flourished with life, that lakes and rivers carved paths through fertile plains. We know that people lived there, hunting, farming, and building. Could this be their final monument? A city or ceremonial center so monumental that only aerial observation reveals its true scale? If so, the eye may represent one of the most significant archaeological mysteries on Earth, a civilization hidden not in myths alone, but etched into the very bones of the planet. Beyond the academic debates, there's an almost conspiratorial allure to the eye. Its resemblance to Plato's Atlantis, its remoteness, and the difficulty of accessing it combine to make it an almost mythical entity. Some theorists argue that governments and institutions have ignored or suppressed research because the implications are too disruptive. Proof of a civilization older than Egypt, older than Mesopotamia, lying in the sands of the Sahara. Others suggest that the eye is simply too enigmatic, defying explanation, and so it has been relegated to the category of geological curiosity rather than investigated as a potential human creation. Walking the eye is an otherworldly experience. The concentric rings create a sense of movement even while standing still. Shadows stretch and bend as the sun rises and falls. The wind carries whispers that may be nothing more than imagination. Yet in this vast, silent landscape, the mind cannot help but wonder. What if every rock, every ridge, every curve is a remnant of a culture that has been erased from memory? What stories lie buried beneath meters of sand? What knowledge, lost to time, waits to be rediscovered? For those drawn to mysteries of the past, the Eye of the Sahara is irresistible. It is a place where science, myth, and speculation converge. It is a reminder that the Sahara, often dismissed as empty, may in fact conceal civilizations older and more complex than we have dared to imagine. And it serves as a prelude to the deeper journey we are about to take, into maps that defy explanation, rivers hidden beneath sand, and megaliths aligned to the stars, all pointing to the possibility that the Sahara was once a cradle of knowledge now lost to the ages. The eye remains, in many ways, a sentinel. It watches silently as the desert shifts and time moves on. It is both a challenge and an invitation to question what we know about human history, to look beyond the surface, and to consider that perhaps the greatest secrets of the Sahara have never been fully revealed. And as we continue our journey, the eye stands as a symbol of the hidden civilization we seek, a civilization whose story may be waiting just beneath the sands, ready to emerge from myth and shadow into the light of discovery. Long before satellites, before drones, before archaeologists could scan the desert in infrared, there were maps, drawn by hands guided by observation, legend, and sometimes intuition. These maps recorded not just the geography of the known world, but the knowledge of civilizations long vanished. And within these ancient charts lie clues that defy explanation. Clues suggesting that someone, somewhere, knew the Sahara as it once was, green, alive, and dotted with rivers, lakes, and possibly cities. One of the most famous of these enigmatic maps is the Piri Reis map, created in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. At first glance, it appears to be a straightforward representation of the Mediterranean and surrounding regions. But a closer examination reveals astonishing anomalies. Portions of the map depict the West African coast in remarkable accuracy, and even more controversially, parts of the South American coastline are drawn with a precision that seems impossible for the time. Some scholars have argued that the map incorporates knowledge of the interior of Africa as well, rivers and mountains that would have been unknown to European explorers. The implication is staggering. The cartographer had access to sources older than commonly believed, perhaps even maps from a vanished Saharan civilization. Even older than the Piri Reis map are medieval Arabic charts, often dismissed as fanciful or imprecise. These maps sometimes depict rivers where none exist today, oases in the middle of the desert, and fertile regions in places that are now bone dry. Taken individually, they may seem like mere errors. Taken together, however, a pattern emerges, one that aligns uncannily with modern geological findings. Ancient riverbeds, long buried beneath dunes, match the paths drawn centuries ago by cartographers who could not have seen them with the naked eye. Then there are the maps whispered about in conspiracy circles, the ones rarely seen outside academic libraries. These charts show vast inland seas in Africa, circular city-like formations, and strange concentric patterns eerily reminiscent of the Rikat structure, the Eye of the Sahara. Skeptics claim these are nothing more than imaginative extrapolations. But when modern satellite imagery confirms the existence of buried river channels and potential man-made structures beneath the sand, the possibility arises that these maps were more than imaginative exercises. They were records of actual observation, preserved through generations, surviving even when the civilizations that created them did not. Consider the implications for a moment. A civilization thriving in the Sahara thousands of years ago would have witnessed the gradual retreat of the monsoons, the drying of lakes, the shrinkage of rivers. They may have documented their land in maps, recording the rivers, cities, and sacred sites before the desert consumed them. These maps could then have been passed down, copied, translated, or incorporated into the charts of later cultures: the Greeks, Romans, Arabs, and eventually European explorers. In this view, what seems ancient in our records may in fact be a direct echo of a civilization that modern history has forgotten. The story becomes more tantalizing when we consider lost cartographic techniques. Some of these ancient maps show accurate longitudinal and latitudinal measurements long before the concept was widely understood. Lines of latitude are drawn with remarkable precision. Distances between features are measured with uncanny consistency. How could people centuries before modern tools create such accuracy? Was there a knowledge transfer from an older, more advanced culture, a Saharan civilization now swallowed by sand? And it is not just the maps themselves that are intriguing, but the anomalies within them. Some charts include landforms that have long since disappeared, islands, river deltas, and lakes that exist only in sediment and memory. Modern geologists have confirmed that some of these features once existed thousands of years ago, erased by climate change. How did ancient cartographers know about them? And why do their depictions match what we now discover only through expensive and complex technology? These maps are more than lines on parchment. They're a form of memory, a record encoded in geography. Some researchers argue that they preserve knowledge of advanced civilizations that predated Egypt, Mesopotamia, or the Indus Valley. If true, it would mean that history's accepted timeline of human development is incomplete, perhaps deliberately so, or perhaps simply because evidence remains buried under layers of sand, rock, and time. Legends suggest that the secrets of these maps were jealously guarded. Ancient scribes, explorers, and scholars sometimes encoded information in symbols, geometric patterns, and marginal notes, accessible only to those initiated into certain traditions. Esoteric orders, secret societies, and learned cults may have safeguarded this knowledge, passing it down in coded form through the centuries. In this sense, maps were not just tools for navigation. They were repositories of cultural memory, treasures of knowledge, and in some cases, guides to places lost beneath the desert. For centuries, explorers searched for the lands described in these charts, often dismissing anomalies as errors. Yet every so often, modern technology vindicates these ancient record keepers. Riverbeds re-emerge in satellite scans. Buried settlements are detected using ground-penetrating radar. Geological surveys confirm that regions thought uninhabitable were once lush and fertile. The maps, once considered fanciful, now appear prophetic. Perhaps the most chilling question is why this knowledge was allowed to fade from mainstream awareness. Maps exist that show Saharan rivers, lakes, and even possible urban layouts long before they were rediscovered by archaeologists. Could it be that once a civilization vanished under the sand, those who inherited its knowledge deliberately hid its origins, allowing the world to forget what lay beneath? Or were these maps merely scattered remnants, surviving by accident, waiting for those willing to connect the dots? Whatever the explanation, the effect on our understanding of the Sahara is profound. Maps that shouldn't exist, maps that depict the desert as it was, not as it is, force us to question everything. They hint at a civilization advanced enough to chart its world, sophisticated enough to encode that knowledge for future generations, and significant enough that its disappearance left a gap in the record of human history. And so, as we follow these lines, rivers, and concentric markings across ancient parchment, the desert begins to speak. It tells of water where there is now dust, of cities that lie buried beneath dunes, of a civilization that once existed in the heart of Africa, its memory preserved in ink, geometry, and legend. For those willing to read between the lines, the maps do more than chart the land. They chart a path to discovery, urging us to look deeper into the sands of time, where history waits in silence. In the end, the maps that shouldn't exist may be the key to finding the hidden civilization of the Sahara. They are whispers from the past, carefully preserved and mysteriously accurate, pointing to places erased from memory, but not from the earth. If we follow them, perhaps we can uncover what others have forgotten. A civilization swallowed by sand, yet immortal in its echoes, waiting for discovery in the heart of the world's largest desert. Beneath the Sahara's endless dunes, a secret world flows unseen. For centuries, travelers have walked the desert, following the subtle rise and fall of the sand, never imagining that beneath their feet lie the veins of a hidden landscape. Immense rivers and aquifers, some stretching hundreds of miles, carrying water that has been trapped since the Sahara was green and alive. These are the underground rivers, silent witnesses to a world long vanished, and they may hold the key to understanding how a civilization could have survived or even thrived in a land now considered inhospitable. For modern scientists, the Sahara is far from empty. Advances in satellite technology and ground-penetrating radar have revealed networks of subterranean water, flowing beneath the sands with astonishing continuity. Some rivers follow paths long erased from the surface, cut by water in a time when the desert was a mosaic of savanna, lakes, and fertile plains. Others collect in hidden aquifers, enormous underground reservoirs capable of sustaining human settlements in the most unlikely of places. What appears to be barren desert from above is, in fact, a complex, layered landscape of water and stone, veins and channels running beneath the sand. These discoveries have forced geologists and hydrologists to rethink the Sahara. The rivers, some thousands of meters below the surface, are remnants of an era when rainfall was abundant, when lakes and wetlands dominated the landscape. Carbon dating of sediment and water has revealed that some of these aquifers contain water older than 10,000 years, water from the African humid period. To a modern observer, it is hard to overstate the significance. This water predates recorded history, a silent record of a fertile Sahara, capable of supporting life on a scale unimaginable today. For proponents of a lost civilization, the implications are profound. If the Sahara once contained vast rivers and lakes, then its people were not merely wandering hunters and herders. They could have built settlements along the banks, cultivated crops, and developed infrastructure to harness the flowing water. Large, complex societies require reliable access to water, and these underground rivers could have provided it long after surface waters dried up. Could the ruins glimpsed through satellite imagery and myths scattered across the desert have once flourished along these hidden veins, now buried beneath meters of sand and rock? Even today, remnants of these rivers can be glimpsed in the desert's surface topography. Dry channels, known as paleochannels, trace the paths of rivers that disappeared millennia ago. The sand shifts, but subtle ridges and depressions reveal their former courses. In some cases, archaeologists have discovered artifacts and rock alignments along these dry riverbeds, suggesting that ancient people used them as lifelines, following the water as it receded, building along its banks while the desert slowly reclaimed the land. Some of these rivers, unlike the ephemeral streams that appear after rare desert storms, run deep and permanent. They are part of what scientists call fossil aquifers, water trapped underground for millennia, sealed from evaporation by layers of impermeable rock and sand. Ancient civilizations, if they had known the locations of these aquifers, could have drilled or dug wells, creating settlements hidden from view, entirely shielded from the arid surface. It is a tantalizing thought. Entire cities sustained not by surface water, but by rivers flowing silently beneath, forgotten by history. Local legends offer curious confirmation of this hidden world. Nomadic tribes speak of wells and underground springs, discovered in the most improbable locations, yielding fresh water in a landscape otherwise devoid of life. Some of these sources are located near formations long suspected to be remnants of ancient settlements, such as circular stone arrangements and megaliths. Oral traditions recount places where ancestors dug shafts into the ground, reaching water and using it to sustain communities long before the desert took hold. These stories may preserve echoes of a sophisticated knowledge of subterranean resources, passed down over thousands of years. The idea of hidden rivers also intersects with broader theories about lost civilizations. If the Sahara once supported a green, fertile landscape, then these underground waters might have been a lifeline after the surface dried. Perhaps cities once thrived along these veins, now entombed beneath sand and time. The Egyptians, arriving from the Nile Valley, may have inherited knowledge of this hidden water, explaining the sudden sophistication of irrigation and agriculture in early dynastic Egypt. Could it be that the secrets of these rivers were preserved by cultures fleeing the encroaching desert, carrying water knowledge, architecture, and cosmology with them? Modern exploration of these aquifers is difficult, costly, and incomplete. The Sahara is not forgiving. Temperatures rise, sandstorms rage, and distances are vast. Yet each new discovery fuels the imagination. Mapping these rivers using satellites and radar has revealed enormous networks that stretch across multiple countries, suggesting that the Sahara's buried landscape is more intricate than we ever imagined. For archaeologists, these channels may serve as signposts, pointing toward settlements, ceremonial sites, or even cities long forgotten. Some theorists suggest that the ancient inhabitants of the Sahara could have gone even further. Could they have built underground chambers, canals, or storage systems along these rivers? Entire networks of tunnels and subterranean cities, hidden from view and preserved by the desert's relentless heat and sand, remain a possibility. If true, it would explain why so little evidence of a large Saharan civilization has survived above ground. It was designed to endure below, hidden from history itself. The great underground rivers challenge the very perception of the Sahara. What looks empty and lifeless is, in fact, a hidden hydrological masterpiece, capable of sustaining life far beyond what is visible to the naked eye. It forces us to reconsider the boundaries of human habitation, the ingenuity of ancient peoples, and the secrets the desert still holds. These rivers are more than water. They're the arteries of a lost world, the silent veins of a civilization that may have once flourished where only sand and silence remain today. As we follow these hidden waterways through satellite images, paleochannels, and local legends, a picture begins to emerge. A Sahara not as a barren wasteland, but as a complex, dynamic ecosystem, home to people who understood it intimately. They built along its rivers, hunted and farmed its lands, and perhaps created settlements that would survive beneath the sands for millennia. The desert did not erase them entirely. It preserved them, waiting for the right eyes to uncover their story. And so, with the knowledge of these great underground rivers, we take the next step in our journey. The Sahara is no longer a void. It is a landscape of hidden life, a reservoir of secrets, and a canvas on which a forgotten civilization may have left its mark. Every buried river, every ancient aquifer, is a clue, a thread leading us deeper into the heart of a mystery that challenges everything we think we know about human history. As the Sahara's hidden rivers carve paths beneath the sand, traces of human ingenuity rise above it in the form of stone. Scattered across the desert are megaliths, massive, deliberately placed stones whose purpose and origin continue to puzzle archaeologists and enthusiasts alike. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt, these structures are often less refined in appearance, but no less astonishing in ambition. They are silent markers of a civilization that understood geometry, astronomy, and perhaps even the spiritual language of the earth, long before the desert claimed them. One of the most remarkable examples is Nabta Playa, located near the Sudanese border. Dated to nearly 7,000 years ago, this complex consists of stone circles, alignments, and carved markers, meticulously positioned. Some stones are arranged to correspond with the solstices, suggesting an understanding of astronomy that rivals the better-known constructions of Stonehenge. For a desert that modern observers deem barren, this is extraordinary. How could a society so long ago have attained such precision without the aid of sophisticated tools? And what drove them to construct these formations in such inhospitable territory? The answer may lie in a combination of practical and spiritual necessity. These megaliths may have been ceremonial centers, places of ritual where people gathered to honor the sun, the stars, and the cycles of nature. But there is also evidence to suggest they were functional markers, perhaps denoting water sources, migration routes, or territorial boundaries. If we consider the hidden rivers beneath the Sahara, it becomes plausible that megaliths were strategically placed to indicate the location of resources essential to survival. A silent map, etched in stone. Beyond Nabta Playa, other megalithic sites appear across the Sahara, forming a network whose purpose remains speculative but undeniably sophisticated. In southern Algeria, large stone circles align with the stars, while in northern Mauritania, clusters of stones are arranged in geometric patterns, some forming rectangles and spirals visible only from above. Modern satellite imagery has revealed additional alignments, suggesting that these structures are part of a larger, interconnected system. Could they mark ancient trade routes, ceremonial paths, or the boundaries of an empire now erased by time and sand? Archaeologists have long debated the origin of these megaliths. Mainstream interpretations often describe them as the work of pastoral nomads, primitive societies expressing a rudimentary understanding of their environment. But the complexity of their design challenges this view. To construct a circle accurately aligned with celestial events requires knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and long-term observation, skills normally associated with advanced societies. When viewed alongside the green Sahara, the hidden rivers, and satellite images of buried structures, a tantalizing possibility emerges. These megaliths may be remnants of a civilization far older and more organized than previously imagined. The scale of these stone arrangements is also noteworthy. While some are modest in size, others span hundreds of meters, requiring the coordinated effort of many people. Moving massive stones across desert terrain without modern tools implies sophisticated social organization, knowledge of leverage, and possibly ritual motivation to unite labor over generations. It is a level of planning and communal effort that suggests more than mere survival. It hints at a culture with purpose, vision, and permanence. Local legends sometimes corroborate these archaeological observations. Nomadic tribes speak of places where stones sing in the wind, or where ancestral spirits rest beneath carefully placed boulders. Some megaliths are said to mark the graves of great leaders or the sites of ancient gatherings. While modern science often dismisses these accounts as folklore, they may preserve fragments of memory about the functions and significance of these stone monuments, encoded in oral tradition over thousands of years. The geometry of these megaliths is particularly compelling. Circles, rectangles, spirals, and alignments appear across hundreds of kilometers of desert, suggesting intentional planning. Some stones align precisely with cardinal points, while others correspond to solstices and lunar cycles. This interplay of math, astronomy, and geography implies that the builders were not only aware of their environment, but also capable of observing it over long periods, recording patterns, and embedding that knowledge into their monuments. It is knowledge that would have been invaluable for survival, agriculture, and ritual in a changing landscape. Beyond the physical, the megaliths also raise profound questions about cultural memory. Why were these stones built in places that are now almost entirely uninhabitable? Why did the tradition persist across generations, even as desertification advanced? One possibility is that they were constructed during the Sahara's green phase and serve as cultural anchors for the people forced to migrate as the desert consumed the land. Another is that they were deliberately preserved or replicated as sacred markers of identity, carrying the memory of a lost civilization into the uncertain future. The presence of these megaliths aligns with other mysterious features in the Sahara, such as the Rikat structure and paleochannels. Taken together, they suggest a civilization that left multiple types of markers, both natural and human-made, to record its presence and knowledge. While surface evidence is fragmentary, the pattern is undeniable. Someone, long ago, invested extraordinary effort to shape the landscape, to communicate knowledge, and perhaps to leave a legacy for future generations. Walking among these stones today is to step into a dialogue with the past. The desert wind whistles across circles and alignments, casting shadows that shift over the course of the day, revealing their geometry in fleeting moments. It is both humbling and eerie, a reminder that even in a landscape deemed empty, human presence can leave traces that endure for millennia. Every stone, every alignment, is a message, a silent testament to the ingenuity and spirituality of people who once thrived here, whose stories have been buried under sand but not erased entirely. As we consider the buried megaliths, the hidden rivers, and the satellite evidence of larger structures, a compelling image emerges. A Sahara that was once alive with human activity, intellectual curiosity, and ritual practice. These stones are more than markers. They are echoes of a civilization whose knowledge, beliefs, and achievements may have influenced later cultures across Africa and beyond. They hint at a society capable of architecture, astronomy, and communal effort, now hidden beneath dunes but waiting to be rediscovered. The megaliths of the Sahara challenge everything we think we know about prehistory. They suggest a culture advanced enough to leave lasting monuments, resilient enough to endure environmental change, and sophisticated enough to encode knowledge in stone. And when viewed in conjunction with the evidence we have already explored, the Green Sahara, the underground rivers, the Rikat structure, and ancient maps, they point toward a larger truth. The Sahara may have been home to a civilization of remarkable complexity, erased from surface memory, but not from the earth itself. Each stone's circle, each geometric arrangement, is a doorway into that lost world. The megaliths beckon, urging us to look closer, to question what has been dismissed, and to consider the possibility that the Sahara's story is far older, far richer, and far more mysterious than we have ever imagined. They are reminders that the desert is not merely a graveyard of civilizations, but a living archive of human ingenuity, waiting patiently beneath the shifting sands to reveal its secrets to those who dare to seek them. The Sahara has always been a place of extremes. Its endless dunes conceal secrets that the world has only begun to glimpse, yet some of the discoveries that have emerged have a curious quality. They appear, draw attention, and then vanish, slipping quietly out of academic discourse. This is the realm of forbidden archaeology, where anomalies, artifacts, and structures resist conventional explanation and sometimes disappear entirely from public awareness. These are the findings that challenge the timeline of human history, yet are often met with dismissal, silence, or even suppression. Consider the reports of stone megaliths buried beneath layers of sand, sometimes discovered by local nomads or remote surveyors, only to be lost in official records. In the 20th century, several expeditions reported massive, carefully cut blocks arranged in geometric formations in regions of the Central Sahara, far from any known civilization. Photographs exist, sketches were made, yet in subsequent decades, these sites became inaccessible due to shifting dunes, political instability, or simply bureaucratic indifference. For those who find such accounts credible, the question looms large. Why would such significant evidence vanish so completely? Another example comes from ancient maps and texts describing cities that no longer appear on modern surveys. Early explorers, armed with nothing more than compasses and rudimentary instruments, recorded ruins in the middle of the desert. Their notes describe walls, towers, and streets aligned with the stars, a sophistication that predates known civilizations in the region. Later surveys, however, either failed to corroborate these reports or dismissed them as mistakes. Some researchers suggest that sandstorms and desertification may have indeed obliterated these sites. Yet others wonder if there's a more deliberate element at work. Are we being prevented from seeing the Sahara as it once was, perhaps because it challenges established narratives of human history? The phenomenon is not limited to desert Africa. Around the world, discoveries have emerged and then vanished, creating a pattern of knowledge that seems tantalizingly close, yet frustratingly out of reach. In the Sahara, this pattern is amplified by the desert itself, a natural barrier that hides evidence with extraordinary efficiency. A single sandstorm can erase a day's survey, burying stone, pottery, and bone beneath meters of sand. Combined with political restrictions, funding shortages, and academic conservatism, it is easy to see how a civilization could be lost to history, even after evidence briefly appeared. Some of the most intriguing reports come from satellite imagery in recent decades. Researchers have identified anomalies, geometric shapes, linear formations, and patterns suggestive of urban layouts that appear to be artificial. When these findings are presented, the response is often skepticism, followed by little follow-up work. Occasionally, researchers claim that once a site is publicized, it becomes inaccessible due to shifting sands, looting, or local restrictions. In this sense, the desert itself becomes an accomplice, preserving its secrets while preventing them from being fully understood. In addition to disappearing sites, there are accounts of artifacts that challenge conventional timelines but are rarely mentioned in mainstream publications. Reports exist of inscribed stones, carved figurines, and tools discovered in desert regions that predate known civilizations yet demonstrate advanced craftsmanship. Some stones bear patterns or symbols aligned with celestial phenomena, suggesting a level of knowledge far older than the societies credited with such skills. These artifacts often appear in obscure journals, personal notebooks, or expedition reports, and then vanish from discussion, as if the desert's hidden civilization refuses to be cataloged in official history. The term forbidden archaeology may sound conspiratorial, but it reflects a very real tension between evidence and narrative. Academic orthodoxy relies on consensus, peer-reviewed publications, and reproducibility. Anomalies that do not fit neatly within accepted timelines are often marginalized. In the Sahara, this creates a paradox. The desert contains evidence of human ingenuity that challenges conventional history, yet much of it remains inaccessible, unexplored, or ignored. The very act of documenting a discovery may seem like breaking a fragile agreement with history itself, revealing truths that mainstream narratives are unprepared to accommodate. The implications of these vanishing discoveries are staggering. If the Sahara once supported a civilization advanced enough to build megaliths, align them with the stars, and map its rivers, then our understanding of human development is incomplete at best and deeply misleading at worst. It suggests that knowledge existed, was transmitted, and then was lost, buried not just under sand, but under centuries of oversight, dismissal, and perhaps deliberate obfuscation. The idea that history could erase entire civilizations is unsettling, yet the evidence, scattered, elusive, and often hidden, cannot be entirely ignored. Some researchers argue that the Sahara is merely a test of human curiosity and persistence. The desert is inhospitable, unpredictable, and relentless. Sites that were once exposed vanish in years, artifacts deteriorate, and records can be lost. The very nature of the landscape ensures that only those willing to look carefully, to read between the lines, and to question conventional wisdom have a chance of uncovering the truth. In this sense, forbidden archaeology is as much about perseverance and intuition as it is about technology or funding. There are also whispers of deliberate concealment. Throughout history, knowledge of lost civilizations has been politically sensitive. Societies and empires may have feared the destabilizing effects of acknowledging older civilizations that predate their own. Stories of hidden cities, underground rivers, and megaliths aligned to the stars may have been suppressed not just by natural forces, but by those who sought to control the narrative of human achievement. Whether intentional or accidental, the result is the same: tantalizing discoveries that vanish, leaving only fragments for the curious to pursue. Despite the obstacles, forbidden archaeology continues to illuminate the Sahara in new ways. Modern technologies, satellites, infrared imaging, ground-penetrating radar, have begun to reveal patterns and structures previously invisible. Some of these findings corroborate older accounts, suggesting that the vanished discoveries were never entirely false, merely obscured. Each new confirmation deepens the mystery and strengthens the hypothesis that the Sahara was once home to a civilization whose scope, knowledge, and ambition rival those of better-known ancient societies. As we piece together these fragmented clues, a picture emerges of a desert both cruel and generous. The Sahara conceals, buries, and erases, yet it also preserves, hints, and whispers. It challenges us to question what we know and what we take for granted about history. The vanishing discoveries, stone circles, megaliths, maps, artifacts, and reports, are not failures of investigation, but invitations. They ask us to see the desert not as a blank canvas, but as a repository of human ingenuity, a silent archive waiting for those patient and daring enough to uncover it. The forbidden archaeology of the Sahara compels us to accept uncertainty, to embrace possibility, and to recognize that history is far from complete. For every site lost, every artifact misplaced, and every report dismissed, the desert reminds us that knowledge is fragile, that civilizations rise and fall, and that the story of humanity may be deeper, older, and more mysterious than we dare imagine. In the shifting sands, the past waits, elusive, persistent, and unforgettable, urging us onward to the next discovery, the next whisper, the next truth hidden beneath the golden dunes. As we journey deeper into the Sahara, the desert begins to reveal a striking pattern. The skies above and the sands below are intimately connected. From Nabta Playa to scattered megaliths across Mauritania and Algeria, the alignment of stone circles, pillars, and monuments with celestial events suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, a knowledge that seems extraordinary for societies thought to be simple pastoralists. In the heart of the desert, the heavens themselves become a map, a calendar, and perhaps a source of guidance for those who knew how to read them. Ancient peoples did not view the night sky as we do, as a distant canvas of stars for mere observation. For them, the stars were markers of time and space, guides for survival, and even sacred presences influencing their world. At Nabta Playa, for example, stones arranged in precise circles correspond to the rising and setting of Sirius, the solstices, and possibly even lunar cycles. These alignments required careful observation over decades, if not centuries. This was not casual stargazing. It was a deliberate, methodical recording of the cosmos, encoded into the desert landscape itself. What is most remarkable is that these celestial markers appear in locations far from the Nile, Mesopotamia, or other centers of known early civilization. They suggest that knowledge of astronomy was not exclusive to the societies historically credited with its discovery. A civilization in the Green Sahara could have developed sophisticated methods for predicting the seasons, tracking time, and coordinating agricultural and ceremonial activities based on the movement of the stars. If this is the case, then the Sahara's inhabitants were not merely surviving. They were observing, calculating, and understanding the universe in ways that challenge conventional historical timelines. The connection between monuments and stars is not limited to simple alignments. Some megalithic formations appear to replicate constellations on the ground, mapping celestial patterns onto the desert itself. Straight rows of stones correspond to the horizon where specific stars rise or set, suggesting a calendar system or a ritual schedule dictated by the heavens. These formations imply not only observational skill, but also the ability to transfer astronomical knowledge into enduring stone constructions, an extraordinary feat for a society supposedly confined to pastoral life. Even the Rikat structure, the Eye of the Sahara, has been examined for possible astronomical significance. Its concentric rings, central plateau, and radial features have been proposed by some researchers as symbolic representations of the cosmos, aligning with cardinal points or solstitial sunrises. While debate continues over whether this is intentional or coincidental, the very suggestion highlights an intriguing pattern. The Sahara's hidden civilization may have encoded knowledge of the heavens and the earth itself, leaving a cosmic signature buried beneath the sand. Oral traditions further reinforce the celestial connection. Tuareg and Berber tribes tell of ancestors guided by stars across the desert, navigating vast distances using knowledge passed down for generations. These stories speak not just of survival, but of ritual and cosmology intertwined with navigation, suggesting that celestial knowledge was both practical and sacred. The stars were not distant observers. They were tools, symbols, and guides for a civilization intimately aware of its environment. Astronomical alignment also implies social organization. Constructing a monument that aligns precisely with a solstice or a star requires planning, cooperation, and long-term observation. Generations must work together, passing knowledge forward, refining measurements, and maintaining the structures. This implies a culture with social cohesion, institutional memory, and purpose, a civilization capable of planning beyond immediate survival, one that invested energy into understanding and harmonizing with the cosmos. The implications extend beyond simple astronomy. Knowledge of celestial cycles informs agriculture, allowing communities to predict rainfall, sowing times, and seasonal migrations. It may have guided the timing of festivals, religious ceremonies, or communal gatherings, providing structure to society. In a landscape where survival depends on precise timing, celestial understanding becomes a critical tool, a lifeline connecting humans to both the earth and sky. These alignments also suggest that knowledge was deliberately encoded in stone to endure. As the Sahara dried and civilizations were forced to migrate, the monuments may have served as reminders of seasonal cycles, sacred practices, or locations of resources. They may have acted as both astronomical instruments and cultural memory, preserving knowledge for those who survived the desertification and carried it into the Nile Valley or beyond. In this way, the stars and stones together form a network of intelligence bridging space, time, and generations. When we consider the broader pattern, underground rivers, megaliths, maps, and now celestial alignments, a portrait emerges of a civilization remarkably advanced for its time. One capable of harmonizing observation, engineering, and ritual in ways that have left a lasting imprint on the desert. The Sahara, once dismissed as a void, reveals itself as a repository of knowledge, a laboratory of human ingenuity where survival, science, and spirituality intersected. Even modern researchers are astonished. Alignments that were dismissed decades ago are now confirmed using GPS and astronomical software. Patterns invisible to the casual observer become clear when overlaid with solar and lunar data. The precision achieved by a people living thousands of years before the construction of the pyramids or Stonehenge challenges assumptions about the origins of astronomical knowledge. It forces us to reconsider not only what the Sahara's hidden civilization was capable of, but also how its knowledge may have influenced surrounding cultures. The celestial dimension also introduces a philosophical question. Why encode knowledge in stone and sand? Perhaps it was a practical measure, a durable system for communicating with future generations. Perhaps it was a spiritual imperative, a way of honoring the cosmos and recognizing humanity's place within it. Or perhaps, as some theorists suggest, it was intended as a signal, a message from the past for those willing to read it, a cosmic breadcrumb trail leading explorers and scholars toward truths long buried beneath the desert floor. In contemplating the Sahara's astronomical legacy, we are drawn into a meditation on time itself. The stones, rivers, and alignments form a layered dialogue between past and present, between humans and the heavens, between civilization and the relentless desert. They hint at a society that understood its world in ways we are only beginning to appreciate, a civilization that saw the sky as both guide and companion, and whose knowledge may have shaped human history in subtle, enduring ways. As the night falls over the dunes, the stars rise in the same patterns they did thousands of years ago. The monuments cast long shadows, some aligned perfectly with the rising constellations. It is in this alignment of earth and sky that the Sahara's hidden civilization speaks to us, silently, persistently, inviting us to decode its message. And in doing so, we begin to glimpse not only their technical skill, but their worldview. A people who understood that the universe is not a backdrop, but a participant in human life, whose movements and cycles were intertwined with survival, culture, and the very essence of being. As the pieces of the puzzle come together, underground rivers, megaliths, maps, and celestial alignments, a remarkable possibility begins to emerge, that the Sahara, long thought to be an empty wasteland, was once home to a civilization of extraordinary sophistication. While physical evidence remains fragmentary, the patterns across the desert suggest a society that thrived, adapted, and created, leaving behind traces that challenge our understanding of human history. Imagine, if you will, a Sahara transformed by abundant water, fertile soils, and a climate capable of sustaining large populations. Rivers flowed where today only dust rises. Lakes glimmered under the sun, reflecting the sky and providing food, water, and trade routes. Settlements dotted the landscape, some organized around the underground aquifers we now know exist, others strategically positioned near ceremonial megaliths that aligned with the stars. This was not a scattered people eking out survival. This was a society capable of complex engineering, astronomy, and cultural expression. The architecture, while mostly lost to time and sand, may have been as innovative as anything found in ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. Stone constructions aligned with celestial events, the careful placement of megaliths, and the intricate mapping of rivers all indicate planning, social coordination, and an understanding of geometry. Entire settlements may have been oriented according to astronomical principles, agricultural cycles, and trade networks, forming a cohesive civilization in harmony with its environment. Technology, too, would have been remarkable. Tools and techniques for moving and shaping massive stones suggest engineering knowledge. The creation of wells and canals to tap into underground rivers hints at hydraulic expertise. Even early pottery and artifacts discovered in scattered Saharan sites point to artistic expression and cultural continuity. Taken together, these elements suggest a society with the intellectual capacity to observe, record, and manipulate its surroundings in ways that have been lost to mainstream history. Social organization would have been equally complex. Coordinating large-scale construction projects, tracking celestial movements, managing agricultural systems, and maintaining trade or migration routes requires leadership, specialization, and communal effort. There must have been teachers, observers, artisans, and leaders, a network of roles sustaining a society that integrated science, ritual, and daily life. This was a civilization that understood the necessity of knowledge transmission, leaving markers in stone, patterns in the desert, and perhaps even coded information in maps for future generations. Culture, though more speculative, can be imagined through the clues left behind. Ceremonial spaces, aligned with solstices and stars, suggest rituals tied to both survival and spirituality. Oral traditions preserved by nomadic tribes hint at myths, cosmologies, and memory of ancestral wisdom. The people of this hidden Sahara may have celebrated the cycles of nature, the passage of time, and their connection to the cosmos, embedding this awareness into art, architecture, and communal life. Their worldview may have been holistic, integrating ecology, astronomy, and spirituality in ways modern societies are only beginning to appreciate. Trade and communication likely played a crucial role. The desert, though vast, was not isolated. Rivers, lakes, and oases provided conduits for exchange. Artifacts hint at connections with regions far beyond the Sahara, suggesting that this civilization was not insular, but engaged in networks of knowledge and resources. Knowledge of water management, astronomical cycles, and agriculture could have traveled outward, influencing cultures in the Nile Valley, West Africa, and perhaps even beyond. Yet, despite these achievements, this civilization disappeared. Climate change, particularly the gradual desertification of the Sahara, would have placed immense pressure on the population. As rainfall diminished, rivers dried, and fertile plains turned to dust, communities would have been forced to migrate, carrying knowledge with them. Those who survived may have settled in the Nile Valley or other regions, transmitting fragments of what was once a vibrant culture. Others may have perished, leaving only stone monuments, faint maps, and whispered stories behind. The disappearance of this civilization also explains the scarcity of surface evidence. Sandstorms, shifting dunes, and centuries of erosion have erased much of what was once visible. Underground structures may remain hidden beneath meters of sand, water, and rock. Megaliths and stone circles endure because they were deliberately monumental, but entire cities, settlements, and infrastructure could be concealed from view, their memory preserved only in indirect traces, alignments, maps, legends, and oral history. Even today, the Sahara challenges researchers with its scale and complexity. Modern technology, satellites, radar, infrared imaging, is uncovering signs of what may be lost settlements and infrastructure. Some formations align with water channels and celestial markers, suggesting deliberate planning. As each layer is peeled back, the vision of a civilization that could have been emerges, hinting at human ingenuity that surpasses expectations for the era. The implications are profound. If the Sahara indeed hosted such a civilization, our understanding of early human development is incomplete. The conventional narrative that civilization arose first in Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley may need revision. Knowledge, technology, and culture could have existed long before, only to be hidden beneath deserts and forgotten in mainstream history. The Sahara's hidden civilization challenges our assumptions about where and how humans advanced, suggesting a complexity and interconnectedness that few historians have fully acknowledged. Philosophically, it is also humbling to realize that a sophisticated society existed, flourished, and vanished under the relentless desert reminds us of the fragility of human achievement. Knowledge can be encoded in stone, maps, and myths, yet civilizations remain vulnerable to environmental and temporal forces. The Sahara is both a graveyard and a memory bank, preserving fragments of what once was while concealing the majority from view. And yet, the traces that survive, the megaliths, the celestial alignments, the paleochannels, the hidden rivers, form a roadmap. They allow us to imagine not only what was lost, but what humans are capable of in harmony with their environment. They offer clues to a civilization that may have been egalitarian, spiritual, and scientifically aware, demonstrating that human potential is far older and more sophisticated than textbooks often admit. Ultimately, the civilization that could have been invites us to rethink the Sahara itself is not merely a desert. It is a repository of knowledge, a living archive of human ingenuity, and a reminder that the past is often more complex than we imagine. By tracing its rivers, reading its stones, and decoding its alignment with the heavens, we catch glimpses of a society that understood its world deeply, and whose echoes may still guide us today. As we delve deeper into the Sahara's hidden past, the narrative begins to intersect with the realm of myth, prophecy, and warning. Across millennia, Many cultures have left fragments of esoteric knowledge, cryptic symbols, oral traditions, and celestial references, hinting at events, cycles, and lost wisdom. In the context of the Sahara, these prophecies may be more than legend. They may be encoded memories of a civilization that vanished beneath the sands, leaving behind subtle messages for those willing to decipher them. Nomadic tribes across North Africa preserve oral histories that speak of a time when the desert was green, rivers flowed freely, and great cities rose and fell. These tales often include cautionary elements, warnings of drought, migration, and collapse, reflecting an intimate understanding of environmental cycles. For instance, some Tuareg stories recount sinking lands and hidden waters, suggesting that their ancestors witnessed dramatic shifts in climate and geography. Though framed as legend, these stories align uncannily with geological evidence, including the paleochannels and fossil aquifers hidden beneath the desert. Some scholars propose that ancient civilizations encoded knowledge of environmental cycles into myths and prophecies. In a landscape where survival depended on precise timing of agriculture, water use, and migration, the ability to anticipate change would have been crucial. These warnings, therefore, may not be mystical. They may be practical, preserved through symbolic language and ritual. Megalithic sites, celestial alignments, and stone markers could have functioned as physical manifestations of these prophetic instructions, guiding communities to respond to climate shifts and resource scarcity. Ancient Egyptian texts also hint at knowledge of the Sahara's former fertility. Certain hieroglyphs and papyri reference lands to the west, where rivers and lakes once flourished, populated by people skilled in astronomy, architecture, and agriculture. Scholars debate whether these references are purely mythological or echoes of historical memory. If the latter, they may represent a distant cultural memory of a civilization erased by desertification, preserved in allegory and prophecy rather than written record. Some prophecies go further, hinting at cycles of destruction and renewal. In many Saharan legends, there is a recurring theme: great cities swallowed by sand, knowledge hidden until the right time, and warnings passed down to future generations. These motifs suggest a sophisticated understanding of long-term environmental and societal dynamics. They reflect not only observation but foresight, a recognition that civilizations rise and fall, and that human survival depends on adaptation, knowledge, and careful stewardship of resources. Beyond local and regional traditions, esoteric interpretations propose that the Sahara's hidden knowledge was intentionally encoded to endure for thousands of years. Symbols carved into stones, alignments of megaliths, and the positioning of settlements relative to underground rivers could all have served as a form of warning. Messages for a distant future, preserved even if the civilization itself was destroyed. The idea is radical yet compelling, that a society sophisticated enough to manipulate water, stone, and celestial observation might also have sought to communicate lessons across time, anticipating the eventual desertification that would erase them from memory. This notion is reinforced by the way ancient cultures elsewhere have preserved knowledge through prophecy. Consider the Maya, whose calendars predicted astronomical events and cycles of societal change, or the Aboriginal Dreamtime stories of Australia, which encoded ecological and geographical knowledge across generations. In this context, Saharan prophecies may be part of a universal pattern, humans using myth and symbol to preserve essential knowledge against the erosion of time, climate, and societal collapse. Modern researchers are increasingly intrigued by correlations between ancient oral histories and empirical evidence. For example, satellite imagery has confirmed the existence of rivers, lakes, and settlements described in local legends. Fossil aquifers align with areas referred to in oral prophecies as sources of hidden water. Even the geometric precision of megalithic sites reflects knowledge that would have been crucial for survival in a shifting landscape. These findings suggest that what has often been dismissed as superstition or myth may, in fact, be encoded environmental and historical intelligence. The prophecies also invite reflection on human resilience and foresight. They illustrate that knowledge is not limited to written records or surviving monuments. It can be transmitted through narrative, ritual, and symbol. In a sense, the Sahara itself becomes a repository of memory, where the desert is both teacher and archive. Those who interpret its signs, the alignment of stones, the paths of underground rivers, the remnants of megalithic cities, are in effect decoding messages left behind by the vanished civilization. Yet there is a darker aspect to these warnings. Many of the tales describe catastrophic change, droughts, societal collapse, and loss of knowledge, reminding us that even advanced civilizations are vulnerable to environmental shifts. The Sahara's hidden society may have flourished for millennia, yet ultimately succumbed to forces beyond its control. These prophecies may have been designed to prevent repetition of the same mistakes, urging future generations to recognize cycles of abundance and scarcity, construction and decay, wisdom and hubris. The esoteric dimension also suggests deliberate concealment of knowledge. Some theorists argue that these messages were intended only for initiates or those capable of understanding their meaning. The symbolism encoded in stone alignments, maps, and celestial patterns may require a level of sophistication to interpret, ensuring that the wisdom of the past is preserved yet safeguarded against misuse. In this sense, prophecy becomes both instruction and protection, a tool for survival as much as a record of achievement. Viewed together, these prophecies and warnings enrich our understanding of the Sahara's hidden civilization. They suggest a people deeply aware of their environment, skilled in observation, and concerned with legacy. They hint at a culture that integrated practical knowledge, spiritual awareness, and long-term planning, encoding lessons for generations that may never have directly witnessed the civilization itself. In doing so, they connect the physical evidence, rivers, stones, and alignments, with the human mind and imagination, providing a holistic picture of a society that may have been as intellectually sophisticated as it was environmentally attuned. Ultimately, the prophecies and warnings invite us to consider our own relationship with time, knowledge, and the environment. If the Sahara was once green, fertile, and thriving, then the lessons encoded in its myths and alignments remain relevant today. The hidden civilization may be gone, but its wisdom lingers in sand, stone, and story, urging us to read carefully, observe the world, and recognize patterns that transcend generations. In this way, prophecy is not merely prediction. It is survival advice, a bridge between past and future, and an enduring testament to human ingenuity and foresight. As we probe deeper into the Sahara's hidden past, a disturbing pattern emerges. Discoveries that could rewrite history often vanish from mainstream discussion. From massive megaliths to underground settlements, from anomalous maps to celestial alignments, the evidence seems to exist in fragments, carefully cataloged by a few researchers, yet largely absent from textbooks, museum exhibits, and academic consensus. What drives this silence? And why are these findings often dismissed or ignored? Some argue that suppression is a natural consequence of scientific conservatism. Academia relies heavily on peer-reviewed publications, reproducibility, and conformity to established paradigms. When evidence challenges prevailing timelines, suggesting advanced civilizations in the Sahara long before known history, it threatens the foundations of accepted knowledge. Researchers who present such anomalies risk professional marginalization, skepticism, or outright dismissal. In this sense, suppression is not necessarily malicious. It may be an institutional defense mechanism against disruptive ideas. Yet the pattern is too consistent to be entirely coincidental. Reports of massive stone structures buried beneath sand dunes, documented by local guides and early explorers, often disappear from records or are downplayed in official reports. Photographs, sketches, and field notes sometimes vanish into archives inaccessible to the public. Expeditions funded by reputable institutions occasionally report tantalizing discoveries, only for subsequent surveys to encounter unexplained obstacles, shifting sands, or bureaucratic hurdles. The effect is the same. Knowledge emerges briefly, tantalizingly, and then recedes, leaving more questions than answers. Maps provide another example of suppressed knowledge. Ancient charts depicting rivers, lakes, and settlements in regions now barren often circulate among historians and enthusiasts, yet are rarely referenced in mainstream scholarship. When they are studied, their anomalies, precise coastlines, forgotten rivers, or hidden cities, are sometimes dismissed as errors, coincidences, or conjecture. The result is a subtle erasure of evidence. The map exists, but its implications are downplayed, ignored, or attributed to chance rather than acknowledging the possibility of a lost civilization. Archaeological reports of anomalous artifacts are similarly subject to suppression. Stones carved with unknown symbols, pottery exhibiting extraordinary craftsmanship, and tools demonstrating advanced techniques occasionally surface in journals, expedition notes, or personal archives, but rarely make it to public awareness. In some cases, political or social pressures prevent further investigation. In others, the artifacts themselves may be lost to private collections, miscatalogued, or even destroyed, whether through negligence, funding limitations, or deliberate action. The result is a patchwork of evidence, tantalizing but incomplete, as if the Sahara story is being whispered to us through cracks rather than presented openly. There are also examples of direct obstruction. In the mid-20th century, expeditions in northern Africa encountered resistance from local authorities, funding agencies, or even military forces when attempting to excavate promising sites. Sites deemed sensitive for political or strategic reasons were often off-limits, while discoveries that might challenge historical orthodoxy were quietly ignored. Satellite images revealing geometric patterns and buried structures were sometimes classified or restricted, further limiting access to information. The desert, in combination with human interference, became a vault, keeping secrets not only from the sands but from the world. The suppression extends to interpretation as well. Even when evidence is acknowledged, mainstream narratives often reframe it to fit conventional timelines. Megaliths are labeled as primitive, maps as fanciful, and anomalies as accidental. Celestial alignments are dismissed as coincidence. In doing so, the narrative of a sophisticated Sahara civilization is systematically minimized. Scholars who entertain alternative interpretations may be labeled speculative or fringe, creating a chilling effect that discourages open inquiry. Yet fragments of suppressed evidence persist, forming a trail for those willing to follow it. Satellite scans reveal buried river channels and potential settlement patterns. Ancient maps depict features later confirmed by geological studies. Oral traditions preserve memories of green plains and hidden water. Each piece reinforces the possibility that an advanced society once existed, yet remains obscured by centuries of desert, academic bias, and institutional reluctance. The suppression is not absolute. It is selective, leaving glimpses for those who look carefully. Some theorists suggest a more deliberate motive. Knowledge of an advanced Saharan civilization, one with sophisticated engineering, astronomy, and water management, could have implications that challenge political, cultural, or historical authority. By controlling access to evidence, authorities and institutions may have unconsciously or consciously maintained the dominant narrative of human history. This raises questions not only about what has been lost to the desert, but also what has been intentionally hidden from view. Even within the scientific community, there is tension between curiosity and caution. Many researchers acknowledge anomalies, but hesitate to draw broad conclusions, fearing professional criticism. As a result, reports of suppressed evidence circulate primarily in alternative journals, lectures, and private collections, while mainstream outlets remain largely silent. The Sahara thus becomes a paradoxical space, rich in clues, yet restricted by human caution and institutional inertia. The impact of this suppression is profound. By limiting access to evidence, we are deprived of the opportunity to fully understand human history. Entire chapters of civilization, knowledge of water systems, celestial observation, urban planning, and social organization remain hidden or undervalued. The Sahara's secrets challenge our conception of early human achievement, yet the narrative that dominates textbooks and popular media remains incomplete, sanitized, and constrained by convention. In this context, the act of uncovering evidence becomes an act of courage. Researchers who revisit old maps, examine satellite imagery, consult oral traditions, or survey megalithic sites are not merely conducting archaeology. They are challenging the very boundaries of what is allowed in historical inquiry. Each discovery, each verified anomaly, chips away at the imposed silence, revealing a Sahara that was once alive with civilization, knowledge, and ingenuity. Ultimately, the suppressed archaeological evidence tells a story about both the past and the present. The Sahara's hidden civilization, though largely erased by sand and time, left traces resilient enough to survive selective suppression. And those traces, maps, megaliths, underground rivers, celestial alignments, and oral traditions, invite us to question accepted history, to consider what may have been deliberately hidden, and to explore the possibility that humanity's story is far more complex than conventional scholarship allows. By piecing together these fragments, we begin to see the outlines of a lost world, a society that understood its environment, observed the stars, constructed monumental architecture, and developed sophisticated knowledge systems, yet was almost entirely erased from memory, surviving only in whispers, fragments, and hidden evidence. The Sahara becomes a testament not only to the ingenuity of its ancient inhabitants, but also to the fragile, contested nature of human knowledge itself. At the heart of Mauritania lies a geological marvel that has captivated scientists, explorers, and mystery enthusiasts alike. The Rikat structure, more commonly known as the Eye of the Sahara. From above, it appears as a vast, concentric formation stretching nearly 50 kilometers in diameter, a massive eye staring into the desert sky. To the untrained observer, it is a natural phenomenon, the result of erosion and uplift. Yet the closer we examine its scale, symmetry, and peculiar details, the more it begins to resemble something deliberate, something perhaps more than the work of natural forces alone. The first explorers to encounter the Rikat structure were struck by its geometric precision. The rings form near-perfect circles, radiating outward with astonishing regularity. Rocks, sediment layers, and erosion patterns appear organized, almost as if they were intentionally arranged. While geologists attribute the formation to a combination of erosion, uplift, and collapse, alternative researchers see a striking parallel to ancient urban planning, concentric walls, terraces, or even canals that may have guided water, settlement, or ritual activity. In a desert that has swallowed most traces of civilization, the Eye of the Sahara seems almost like a cosmic message etched into the earth. What makes the Rikat structure particularly fascinating is its potential correlation with ancient maps and lost civilizations. Some scholars propose that it corresponds to descriptions of Atlantis found in Platonic texts. The concentric circles, central plateau, and radial divisions align intriguingly with Plato's account of a legendary city surrounded by concentric walls of land and water. While such claims are speculative, the coincidence has inspired decades of debate. Could the Rikat structure be a natural formation that coincidentally matches myth, or is it a preserved record of a civilization now hidden beneath the desert sands? Beneath the surface, there are hints that the Rikat may contain more than meets the eye. Ground-penetrating radar and geological surveys have revealed anomalies, subsurface structures, channels, and depressions that suggest past human intervention. Some propose that the central plateau could have been an elevated ceremonial or administrative center, while the rings may have functioned as residential, agricultural, or ritual zones. Even if much has been eroded over millennia, these features hint at a deliberate design, raising questions about whether the Sahara's hidden civilization once reached a scale of complexity rivaling that of Mesopotamia or the Nile Valley. The eye's location is also significant. Positioned near known paleochannels and fossil aquifers, it sits atop resources that could have supported a substantial population. Access to underground water, combined with fertile soil in a previously green Sahara, could have enabled the construction of monumental architecture and sustained a thriving society. When we overlay satellite imagery of paleochannels with the Rickhat structure, a striking pattern emerges. The eye appears strategically placed at a nexus of water and potential trade routes, suggesting that its builders were not only aware of the terrain, but actively shaping it to suit their needs. Local legends add another layer to the mystery. Nomadic tribes have long told stories of circular cities, eyes in the desert, and places where the land itself seemed to be alive with memory. While these tales are often dismissed as folklore, they resonate eerily with the geography of the Rickhat structure. Could these oral traditions preserve echoes of the lost civilization that once thrived there, passed down across thousands of years, even as the desert claimed its surface traces? Even the composition of the structure raises questions. The rings are composed of various rock types, some of which are not found naturally in the immediate vicinity. This has led some researchers to speculate about the transport of materials, either for construction, ceremonial purposes, or symbolic reasons. Moving and arranging stones at this scale requires planning, knowledge of mechanics, and cooperative effort, all hallmarks of a society capable of sophisticated organization. The Eye of the Sahara also aligns intriguingly with celestial observations. Some researchers have suggested that its orientation corresponds with solstitial sunrises, cardinal points, and certain star positions. While conventional geology attributes these alignments to coincidence, the possibility remains that the structure functioned as a combination of map, observatory, and ceremonial site, a monumental reflection of a society that understood both earth and sky. Historically, the Rickhat structure has been largely ignored by mainstream archaeology. Its remote location, combined with the dominance of naturalistic explanations, has discouraged serious excavation. Yet this very inaccessibility preserves its secrets. Sand and wind have shielded potential ruins from looting and destruction, leaving a formation that is both enigmatic and pristine. It stands as a silent witness to the Sahara's lost past, a giant eye that has seen the rise and fall of civilizations across millennia. The more one studies the Rickhat structure, the more it embodies the paradox of the Sahara itself, a place where natural and human forces intertwine, where evidence of past civilizations is both present and obscured, where myth and geology coexist in tantalizing tension. Whether the eye is a natural formation, a partially engineered monument, or a combination of both, it forces us to confront the possibility of a civilization far more advanced than conventional history admits. Finally, the Rickhat structure serves as a climactic symbol in the story of the Sahara. It embodies the intersection of mystery, geology, astronomy, and archaeology. It is a focal point where hidden rivers, buried megaliths, celestial alignments, and suppressed evidence converge. In many ways, it is the ultimate representation of a civilization that could have been, a civilization whose legacy, whether fully natural or partially human-made, continues to challenge our understanding of history. As we gaze upon the eye from above, the concentric rings echo the cycles of rise and fall, abundance and scarcity, knowledge and loss. They remind us that even in the harshest landscapes, human ingenuity can leave enduring marks. And in the shadows of this vast formation, we glimpse the possibility that the Sahara, for all its desolation, once held a society of remarkable vision, skill, and understanding, a civilization whose story is still waiting to be fully uncovered. As we move beyond the mysteries of the Rickhat structure, the evidence begins to point towards something even more extraordinary, a Sahara civilization not merely surviving, but possessing advanced knowledge that rivals, and perhaps even predates, other great early societies. From engineering feats to astronomical precision, from water management to symbolic encoding. The traces left behind suggest that these people were not just observers of the world, but active shapers of it. Consider the megaliths scattered across the desert, their placement far from random. Circles and rows align with solstices, lunar cycles, and notable stars. Some stones are carved or shaped with precision that implies mastery over geometry and measurement. Moving massive stones without modern machinery requires a sophisticated understanding of leverage, force, and coordination. Yet these feats were accomplished in the harsh Sahara environment, a landscape now considered inhospitable, but which once sustained human activity. The scale and precision of these constructions suggest a society with not only technical skill, but also the organizational ability to mobilize labor across generations. Further evidence emerges from the hidden rivers and aquifers beneath the desert. The discovery of subterranean channels, paleolakes, and aquifers hints at a deep understanding of hydrology. Some researchers propose that the civilization mapped these underground resources and may have developed methods to tap and manage them, providing sustainable water access in an increasingly arid landscape. If accurate, this knowledge predates modern hydraulic engineering, showing foresight and adaptation that is remarkable by any measure. Ancient engineers may have coordinated settlements, agriculture, and ritual spaces around these hidden lifelines, leaving subtle markers that modern technology is only now beginning to detect. Artifacts recovered from the Sahara, though rare, also hint at advanced craftsmanship. Carved stone tools exhibit intricate workmanship. Pottery displays patterns and symmetry that imply both artistic sensibility and technical precision. Some inscriptions remain undeciphered, suggesting symbolic or coded communication. These artifacts point to a society capable of abstract thought, technological innovation, and cultural expression, hallmarks of an advanced civilization that leaves evidence beyond mere survival. Astronomical knowledge further underscores their sophistication. Alignment with stars and planets was not incidental. It was intentional, precise, and functionally significant. Monuments may have served as observatories or calendars, tracking celestial cycles to guide agricultural and ceremonial events. This knowledge implies long-term observation, record-keeping, and mathematical understanding. For civilization operating in a challenging environment, astronomy would have been a critical tool, blending practical necessity with spiritual or symbolic significance. The Rikat structure itself may represent a pinnacle of this advanced understanding. Its concentric rings, central plateau, and radial features suggest careful planning. Some theorists propose that its geometry mirrors celestial patterns, functioning as a terrestrial map of the heavens. Whether for ceremonial, administrative, or astronomical purposes, it embodies a vision of spatial, environmental, and cosmic awareness, a knowledge system sophisticated enough to integrate multiple disciplines in a single monumental form. Even more remarkable is the evidence of long-term planning and knowledge preservation. Megaliths, maps, and oral traditions indicate that information was intentionally encoded for future generations. Patterns in stone and sand may have served as mnemonic devices, guiding migration, resource management, or ritual activity. The civilization's foresight extended beyond immediate survival. It considered continuity, memory, and instruction, concepts usually associated with literate, urban societies. There are also hints of a symbolic or esoteric dimension to this advanced knowledge. Some researchers suggest that geometry, alignment, and artifact patterns were intentionally imbued with meaning, functioning as a repository of wisdom that could only be interpreted by those with specialized knowledge. These encoded systems may have integrated environmental observation, astronomical cycles, and cultural instruction, creating a sophisticated information network that transcended ordinary communication. In this sense, the Sahara becomes not only a physical environment, but also a living library, a place where knowledge persists in encoded form beneath the sands. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond the desert itself. If this civilization possessed advanced engineering, astronomy, and environmental understanding, then human history may be far older and more complex than mainstream narratives suggest. The Sahara may have been a cradle of innovation whose influence radiated outward, impacting cultures along the Nile, across the Sahel, and perhaps even beyond. The lost knowledge of this civilization challenges assumptions about linear progress and invites us to reconsider the origins and diffusion of early technological and intellectual achievements. Moreover, the evidence invites reflection on the fragility of knowledge. The Sahara's civilization, despite its sophistication, was ultimately vulnerable to environmental change. Desertification, climate shifts, and migration erased much of its physical legacy, leaving only megaliths, celestial markers, and subtle traces in the landscape. Yet, even in disappearance, the civilization preserved fragments of knowledge in ways that can be detected, interpreted, and appreciated thousands of years later. It is a reminder that knowledge is both durable and fragile, encoded in stone, sky, and story, yet always at risk of being lost to time. The pattern is clear. The Sahara's hidden civilization was not primitive. It exhibited expertise in engineering, astronomy, hydrology, and cultural codification. Its achievements challenge the conventional timeline of human development and suggest that advanced knowledge was more widespread than previously recognized. From celestial alignments to underground rivers, from monumental stonework to encoded symbols, every piece of evidence points toward a society capable of remarkable innovation, observation, and foresight. In studying this civilization, we are forced to confront profound questions. How much knowledge has been lost to environmental change, suppression, or neglect? What other civilizations might have existed that left only faint traces behind? And perhaps most importantly, what lessons can modern humanity glean from a society that integrated survival, observation, engineering, and wisdom, and yet ultimately succumb to forces beyond its control? The evidence of advanced knowledge transforms our understanding of the Sahara from a barren desert into a cradle of human ingenuity. Each stone, each alignment, each hidden channel is a testament to a civilization that observed, recorded, and interacted with its environment at a level previously unrecognized. The Sahara, long considered a void, now emerges as a landscape of intellect, foresight, and encoded wisdom, a silent archive of human potential waiting to be read by those patient and perceptive enough to decipher it. As we emerge from the depths of the Sahara's hidden civilization, the story begins to intersect with our modern world. The traces of advanced knowledge, buried rivers, celestial alignments, and megalithic structures are not merely relics of the past. They are a living legacy, a source of insight, speculation, and sometimes controversy. The Sahara, long seen as desolate, suddenly becomes a mirror reflecting both the ingenuity and fragility of human society, past and present. One immediate implication concerns environmental knowledge. The Sahara's hidden civilization mastered water management in ways that allowed life to thrive in a landscape now largely inhospitable. Underground rivers, aquifers, and paleochannels provided sustenance for communities spread across vast distances. Today, these same hidden water sources are critical for understanding climate change, desertification, and sustainable resource use. Modern hydrologists and geologists are beginning to study these ancient systems, hoping to glean lessons that may guide contemporary desert management and agriculture. The Sahara, it seems, may still have wisdom to offer, if only we know how to read it. The astronomical knowledge encoded in megaliths and celestial alignments also resonates in the modern era. Scholars studying ancient observatories and alignment patterns recognize that early societies possessed sophisticated tools for predicting seasons, navigating terrain, and understanding the cosmos. These observations hint at a scientific tradition that is older, broader, and more complex than standard history suggests. In a world increasingly obsessed with technology, the Sahara reminds us that profound knowledge can emerge from observation, patience, and integration with the natural environment. Ancient methods of tracking celestial cycles, for instance, can inspire new approaches to sustainable planning and ecological awareness today. Beyond practical applications, the Sahara's hidden civilization carries cultural and philosophical legacies. Oral traditions, symbolic encoding, and ritual spaces suggest a society that valued memory, foresight, and continuity. In a modern world that often prioritizes short-term gain over long-term planning, these lessons are striking. The idea that knowledge can be preserved in stone, in landscape, and in story underscores the importance of recording and transmitting information, a reminder that civilizations rise or fall, depending not only on resources, but on wisdom and foresight. The hidden legacies also raise questions about our understanding of human history. If advanced societies existed in the Sahara long before the rise of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or the Indus Valley, then the conventional narrative of progress, linear, centralized, and well-documented, is incomplete. The Sahara's evidence suggests that human ingenuity is not confined to one region or period. It may emerge wherever necessity, observation, and creativity intersect. This forces us to reconsider what constitutes civilization, where it arises, and how knowledge is preserved or lost. Moreover, suppressed or overlooked archaeological evidence has modern political and social implications. Discoveries that challenge established timelines or reveal advanced ancient societies can disrupt national narratives, academic authority, and even economic interests. For example, uncovering evidence of a sophisticated civilization could influence tourism, land use, and cultural heritage policy across North Africa. It might also challenge Eurocentric historical frameworks, offering a more complex and inclusive view of human achievement. The Sahara's hidden civilization, then, is not just an academic curiosity. It is a catalyst for re-evaluating power, history, and cultural recognition in the modern world. Technological advances today are allowing new investigations into these hidden legacies. Satellite imagery, LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, and infrared surveys reveal patterns invisible to early explorers. Previously inaccessible regions are now mapped and analyzed, uncovering anomalies, buried structures, and alignment patterns. These discoveries are creating a bridge between past and present, showing that knowledge, once encoded in stone, sand, or story, can be decoded with modern tools. In a sense, the Sahara is a classroom, offering lessons in engineering, astronomy, hydrology, and resilience for contemporary humanity. Yet the modern implications are not purely academic. There is also a philosophical dimension. The Sahara reminds us that civilizations are fragile, that knowledge is transient, and that environmental change can erase even the most sophisticated societies. In our era of climate crises, resource scarcity, and geopolitical uncertainty, the lessons of the desert resonate more strongly than ever. The hidden civilization serves as both inspiration and warning. It demonstrates what humans are capable of, but also how easily that knowledge can be lost if environmental or societal conditions shift. The symbolic power of the Sahara's hidden legacy also extends to imagination, creativity, and culture. Writers, filmmakers, and storytellers draw inspiration from the idea of lost civilizations, megaliths aligned with the stars, and secrets buried beneath sand. The Eye of the Sahara, the hidden rivers, and vanishing cities have sparked myths, theories, and even conspiracy-laden speculation, all part of a continuing cultural engagement with the desert's mysteries. In this way, the Sahara continues to influence human thought, bridging history, imagination, and inquiry. Even modern explorers and archaeologists carry the mantle of discovery. Each excavation, survey, or remote sensing project is part of a continuum, connecting us to those ancient observers who first aligned stones with stars or tracked the paths of rivers. The Sahara becomes a living laboratory, a place where curiosity, ingenuity, and interpretation converge. In uncovering these hidden legacies, we not only reveal the past, but also refine our understanding of human potential, resilience, and the ways in which knowledge can endure through time. Finally, the Sahara's hidden civilization challenges us to question the very nature of evidence, history, and narrative. What is lost, suppressed, or overlooked may hold keys to understanding humanity in its fullest sense. By engaging with the desert, its stones, sands, alignments, and oral traditions, we acknowledge the limits of conventional history and embrace the possibility that civilization is more diverse, innovative, and ancient than we often admit. The modern implications of this realization extend beyond scholarship. They touch philosophy, ethics, environmental stewardship, and our collective imagination. In the end, the Sahara's hidden civilization is not only a story of the past. It is a mirror reflecting the present and a guide for the future. Its advanced knowledge, environmental mastery, celestial observation, and encoded wisdom remain relevant, urging us to observe, adapt, and preserve. Whether as a cautionary tale, an inspiration, or a source of tangible knowledge, the desert reminds us that human ingenuity is ancient, fragile, and enduring, waiting for those willing to uncover its secrets beneath the ever-shifting sands. As we draw our journey across the Sahara to a close, the vast desert stretches endlessly before us, a landscape of sand, stone, and memory. Yet beneath this apparent emptiness lies a story of astonishing depth, complexity, and intrigue. The story of a civilization that may have flourished where today only dunes reign. The evidence we've traced, megalithic monuments, celestial alignments, hidden rivers, suppressed maps, and ancient prophecies, forms a mosaic, each fragment a testament to human ingenuity, foresight, and resilience. And as with any mosaic, the picture is incomplete, leaving room for imagination, exploration, and ongoing discovery. Throughout history, humans have looked at deserts as barren voids, spaces of scarcity and limitation. But the Sahara tells a different story. Its hidden civilization, once nourished by rivers and fertile lands, demonstrates that even the harshest environments can foster ingenuity, culture, and knowledge. From carefully aligned stone circles to monumental structures that mirror the heavens, these people engage deeply with their world, observing, recording, and preserving wisdom across generations. In doing so, they remind us that civilization is not defined solely by grand cities or written records, but also by observation, adaptation, and encoded memory. The narratives of this civilization, preserved in stone, sand, and story, also reveal the delicate balance between human achievement and environmental forces. Desertification, shifting climates, and the disappearance of water sources ultimately force communities to migrate or perish. The rise and fall of this society is a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability, even when armed with knowledge and technology. It compels us to reflect on our own era, where climate change and environmental pressures threaten global societies in ways both visible and subtle. The Sahara's past becomes a cautionary tale, urging foresight, adaptability, and respect for natural systems. Suppressed evidence and overlooked anomalies further complicate the story. Maps, artifacts, and satellite imagery suggest knowledge once widespread, yet hidden or ignored by mainstream narratives. Whether due to institutional caution, academic conservatism, or deliberate suppression, this gap in understanding challenges us to question what we accept as history. The Sahara invites us to look beyond conventional sources, to consider oral traditions, forgotten records, and geological evidence as equally valid parts of human memory. It is a call to curiosity, critical thinking, and an openness to the unexpected. Celestial alignments and astronomical knowledge underscore the sophistication of this hidden society. Observing the stars was not mere fascination. It was survival, planning, and spiritual practice. By tracking the heavens, these people synchronized agriculture, migration, and ritual with the cycles of the cosmos. Their ability to encode this knowledge into monuments and patterns speaks to a holistic worldview, one that integrated science, spirituality, and community. For modern audiences, these alignments inspire awe and remind us of the timeless human quest to understand our place in the universe. The Rikat structure, the Eye of the Sahara, stands as the ultimate symbol of this civilization's vision. Its concentric rings, radial features, and enigmatic scale echo both natural forces and potential human intention. Whether a product of erosion, careful planning, or a combination of both, it embodies the Sahara's paradox. At once a natural wonder and a historical mystery, a marker of both time's passage and human ingenuity. It challenges us to question the boundaries between geology and archaeology, between myth and history. As we reflect on modern implications, the Sahara's hidden legacy resonates across multiple dimensions. Technological advances allow us to uncover what was once invisible. Satellite imaging, LiDAR, and ground-penetrating radar reveal buried rivers, settlement patterns, and alignment structures. Oral histories and prophecies enrich our understanding of human adaptation and environmental awareness. The desert becomes not only a repository of ancient wisdom, but also a laboratory for contemporary science, environmental management, and historical inquiry. By studying these legacies, we reconnect with a civilization that, though erased from conventional memory, still speaks through landscape, stone, and story. Philosophically, the Sahara encourages humility and reflection. It reminds us that knowledge is fragile, civilizations are impermanent, and human ingenuity can flourish even in extreme circumstances. The traces of a lost society challenge assumptions about linear progress, technological development, and the centers of early human achievement. They suggest that advanced knowledge may have existed far earlier and in places previously unacknowledged. By embracing this possibility, we broaden our perspective on history, innovation, and the resilience of human culture. The hidden civilization beneath the Sahara also invites us to consider continuity, the transmission of knowledge across time. Stone circles, celestial alignments, and oral traditions served as repositories, ensuring that future generations could interpret, learn, and adapt. Even today, these systems offer lessons about environmental stewardship, resource management, social coordination, and the importance of preserving collective wisdom. In this sense, the Sahara is both a memorial and a guide, a place where past and present converse silently but powerfully. In the end, the story of the Sahara's hidden civilization is not just about discovery. It is about perspective. It is about seeing deserts not as voids but as archives, myths not as mere tales but as encoded knowledge, and ruins not as remnants but as lessons. Each stone, river, and alignment is a voice from the past, inviting us to listen, reflect, and learn. The civilization may be gone, but its echoes endure, challenging us to reinterpret human history and to consider the possibilities that lie hidden beneath landscapes we thought we understood. As the sun sets over the dunes, casting long shadows across ancient stones, we are reminded of the Sahara's enduring mystery. Time, wind, and sand may obscure the past, but curiosity, observation, and imagination allow us to reconstruct it, at least in part. The hidden civilization beneath the Sahara, with its advanced knowledge, foresight, and ingenuity, remains a testament to the boundless potential of humanity. And as we leave the desert behind, its silent lessons remain with us, whispering across millennia, that the world is full of mysteries, waiting for those patient enough to uncover them. The Sahara, then, is more than a desert. It is a story, a puzzle, and a legacy. It challenges us to question, to explore, and to wonder. And in doing so, it reminds us that history is not only what we are taught, but also what we discover, interpret, and carry forward. The hidden civilization beneath its sands may never be fully revealed, but its impact on imagination, science, and human understanding endures. As our journey concludes, we are left with a profound realization. The Sahara is alive with memory, knowledge, and mystery. Beneath the sun-scorched dunes, under the stars that guided generations, humanity's potential shines through, timeless, resilient, and waiting for those who dare to seek it. Even after all the exploration, speculation, and revelation, the Sahara continues to speak in whispers. Its dunes shift with the wind, concealing vast secrets, while its stones silently record epics of human endeavor that predate most written history. The desert's hidden civilization remains elusive, yet its presence can be felt in patterns, alignments, and faint traces that challenge our understanding of time, knowledge, and human achievement. In the quiet of the Sahara, one begins to sense the rhythm of history itself, not as a straight line, but as a series of cycles, rise and fall, abundance and scarcity, knowledge gained and knowledge lost. The echoes of this vanished civilization remind us that human ingenuity can flourish even in extreme conditions, yet it also underscores our vulnerability to forces beyond control, climate shifts, environmental changes, and the relentless passage of time. These whispers are warnings, lessons, and inspiration all at once. Travelers and explorers often remark on the desert's paradox. Its emptiness conceals richness, its silence carries stories, and its monotony masks complexity. Beneath the surface, ancient rivers and paleolakes trace a geography once alive with human activity. Megaliths hint at astronomical observation, ritual practice, and mathematical understanding. Maps and legends, once dismissed as fanciful, suggest a sophisticated knowledge of the landscape. These layers of evidence converge to form an invisible map, a guide left by a civilization that understood its world in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. The Sahara also teaches humility. For every structure, artifact, or trace discovered, countless others have vanished to time and sand. Our understanding is partial, fragmented, and constantly evolving. Even modern technology, satellites, LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, reveals only hints of what lies beneath. The desert challenges us to accept uncertainty, to embrace the unknown, and to cultivate patience in the pursuit of knowledge. The whispers are subtle, requiring careful listening, observation, and imagination. Oral traditions and esoteric teachings further amplify these whispers. Tribes across the Sahara preserve stories of lost cities, hidden waters, and celestial phenomena that guided ancient communities. While these narratives are often dismissed by mainstream history, they may encode critical knowledge, instructions for survival, guidance for resource management, and memory of a civilization now almost entirely erased. In listening to these stories, we bridge past and present, discovering a continuum of human insight that spans millennia. Philosophically, the Sahara challenges us to reconsider the nature of civilization itself. The hidden society beneath its sands was advanced, not in ways measured solely by written texts or monumental urban centers, but through adaptation, foresight, and mastery of environment and sky. Knowledge, creativity, and innovation need not leave conventional records to exist. Civilization can persist in patterns, alignments, and subtle memory, teaching us that human achievement is often hidden, waiting for those patient enough to uncover it. The epilogue of this story is also a meditation on mystery itself. The Sahara reminds us that some questions may never be fully answered, that some cities may never be uncovered, and that some wisdom may remain buried beneath millennia of sand. Yet this very uncertainty fuels curiosity, imagination, and wonder. It invites us to think beyond conventional frameworks, to explore alternative histories, and to appreciate the complexity and resilience of human culture. Mystery is not a failure of understanding. It is an invitation to inquiry. Even as we step back from the Sahara, its influence lingers. The desert's geometry, its celestial connections, its hidden water sources, and its faint echoes of civilization compel reflection on the fragility and brilliance of humanity. We are reminded that history is not only what we can see and measure, but also what lies beneath, waiting to be discovered, interpreted, and appreciated. The whispers of the Sahara are timeless, connecting us to the minds, hands, and spirits of those who walked its green plains long before we arrived. In closing, the Sahara is more than a desert. It is a narrative space, a living archive of human potential. It speaks of ingenuity, foresight, and resilience, as well as the impermanence of civilizations and the enduring power of memory. The hidden civilization beneath its sands may be gone, but its legacy endures in stones, rivers, celestial alignments, and stories. It invites us to listen carefully, think critically, and marvel at the possibilities of human achievement. As night falls over the desert, stars emerge, aligning once again with the monuments and patterns that have guided observers for millennia. The wind shifts, reshaping dunes, and the sands conceal secrets yet to be revealed. The Sahara whispers, a voice that is at once ancient, mysterious, and eternal, reminding us that the world is richer, stranger, and more interconnected than history alone can capture. In the end, we are left with wonder, curiosity, and respect. The Sahara's hidden civilization challenges our assumptions, inspires our imagination, and teaches lessons that are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. The desert's story continues, silent yet profound, urging those who listen to seek, discover, and reflect. Its whispers are a call to engage with history, mystery, and the enduring potential of humanity.